I'm having a great chat with Linus Lerner, conductor, music director of the Southern Arizona Symphony in Tucson, Arizona, as well as the Rio Grande Orchestra Rio Grande do Norte in Brazil. I hope my pronunciations are halfway there. The Gramado in Concert International Music Festival. Am I okay still in Brazil? San Luis Opera Festival and your international voice competition in Mexico, and I'm very curious about those things. In other words, you're a busy guy, and you're getting all over the place. And we're here to talk about a 2017 American Classics Naxos release by the Southern Arizona Symphony Orchestra of two contemporary American viola concertos. Where are my people out there? My eyes are popping out of my head at this, an incredible achievement on such a great label. With violist Brett Deubner, whom you met at Round Top. We're going to kind of touch on all of that. But this interview, the links to buy the CD, all that good stuff, all the pictures. You're so busy with other projects we're going to talk about. It's all going to go up at performingartsreview.net. I put in my plug for my spot there, and I think people are going to find this interview very interesting because of your international travels. On the other hand, I've been trying to puzzle. Now let's see, he's in Brazil. I already asked you, you speak, of course, fluently about 18,000 languages, including Portuguese. I'm very interested in Portuguese because we're taking a group of people to Portugal this summer.
Yes.
But Spanish and so on. But so I was thinking, Arizona, what's, of course, you got your doctorate at the University of Arizona. So, Linus, can you kind of give me an idea of who were you before conducting literally bit you? I think I can say that as a conductor. You're sort of wandering around in the universe. I was a clarinetist. I hated it. And then all of a sudden, bam, conducting? Yes. Tell me the story, please.
Yes. Well, as I said, I am German origin, born in Brazil. So I grew up in a German family. My first language was German, a dialecto. And I was listening to all that kind of German music, not literally classical music, but I love music since I was a kid. And my first performance was at age 11 when I sang in the church a big solo and played the salterio, the kind of horizontal harp. And from that moment on, I knew that this is what I want to do. And since my family was very poor, the only thing that came to my mind at the time that I want to be a priest so I could do music and not have to pay for it, because the church will be a way that I could do great music. And I love that time sacred music. At age 15, I was working in a bank as one of those boys that serves coffee and makes the copies, the photocopies, Xerox. So I left at age 15. I left the bank to have my own school of guitar because at age 13 I was already learning guitar, classical and popular. And then I had my school in the very inside the countryside. I have a school of guitar, and at 17 I was conducting choruses already. I had a what do we call the technical degree in guitar. Then I went to university there in choral conducting degree. And in the middle, I start singing opera at age 18. By the age 23, 22, I sang my first big role in opera. Was Così fan tutti. I sang Guglielmo. And then I was conducting chorus, singing opera, and once in a while I was conducting instrumental groups with my choruses, Vivaldi's Gloria and Poulenc's, stuff like that. I got a scholarship. I got a competition in Brazil as a singer, and also with my choruses, we got the third place in international chorus competition. So there are some Americans judges there. Invite me to come to America. I came to Oxford, Ohio, and my work there was to conduct a chorus, the school, one of the school chorus. I also, of course, have voice lessons and singing operas and stuff like that. I didn't quite enjoy so much that school. I stay a year and then I moved to CCM to do a full degree in performance in voice performance. Then on
CCM is, excuse me, sorry, CCM.
Conservatory of Music of Cincinnati.
So of course there is a little culture shock coming from Brazil to what was it, Stanford, Ohio, a tiny little college town. So of course you fled to Cincinnati. Makes sense. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, and then of course CCM is one of the best schools still in the world, and for voice performances was amazing. But I keep conducting, I keep doing things with chorus, I keep doing things, having orchestral lessons and stuff. So I decided after I finished my degree, and I was singing already, I was having a career. I sing in Europe, I sing in some places in America, and I thought, I want to go back to conducting. So I went to do a second master's degree that was at Florida State. And then I thought, hey, I'm going to combine the two things that I love the most. So I conduct a premiere of an opera there that I sang in Italy, Procedura Penale by Luciano Chaida, the father of Riccardo Chaida, the famous conductor. So I did that premiere in America conducting. I said, this is what I want to do principally. I want to conduct, and if I can conduct opera, that will be phenomenal, because as a singer, I could understand, how the singers will breathe and everything. So once I finished that second master's degree in orchestral conducting with Philip Spurgeon as a teacher, it was a phenomenal degree there for me, and orchestra was great. I had a great experience. Then I got invited for a doctoral degree. I got a scholarship to come to the University of Arizona in Tucson. And the real deal for me was that Dr. Cockrell, Professor Cockrell, Thomas Cockrell, he said, if you come here, I will give you, for every performance of the operas that we have, and they normally have two operas in a year, he will give me a performance to conduct. I said, well, that you said enough. I came to do my doctoral degree here, and I was conducting choruses as apprenticeship. I could not work legally, so I have to do through the university. And then I was doing other groups, and bingo, one of these choruses that I was conducting here, that was the Reveille Men's Chorus, gave me the opportunity to get the green card. And then I applied, and then I got it. And 5 years later, I became a citizen. And then I was going to then I took it since 2008, 2009. I got then the Southern Arizona Symphony Orchestra, and then I moved to Houston. I was doing some work there with the choruses, with the orchestra. I went to Carnegie Hall with them. So I was back and forth in between Houston and Tucson for a while. And then I have to leave the work in Houston because I got the Rio Grande do Norte Symphony in Brazil. And then now I go between those two orchestras. Almost every month I go to Brazil. And then I start my career as a guest conductor, and sometimes podium exchanges and festivals. Then I have, the Gramado in Concert, which is going to its 5th year. It's a phenomenal, very high-level festival. I've been conducting 5 years already in the Round Top Festival, very great level festival. And I think it's one of the 3 best festivals in America. And then I started doing a lot of opera in Mexico. In fact, I got the highest medal for achievements in Mexico because of my work with opera there. I think I worked with more than 3,000 voice students there. And then I have the festival. Then I have also the competition that it takes my name.
May I take a nap, and then I'll get back to you? Hang on a second. Excuse my cold. Apparently is coming on. I am absolutely exhausted. It always amazes me. I suppose that's why I'm here in my little apartment chatting at you from Santa Barbara. But this first of all, immediately, because I'm a kind of entrepreneur, I started the Little Youth Symphony as a kid here in Santa Barbara, and the same kind of story that although you've had a very, very wonderful and successful career, but you are clearly an entrepreneur. There's no doubt about that. Yeah. So you have your fingers and maybe your toes into all kinds of wonderful projects. It seems to me. Energy, energy, energy. Is that your family? Is that in the blood and DNA? Where does this come from?
I guess so. My father is 84 years old, and and my mom is 12 years younger, so 72, and they are king and queen of the dance ballrooms of third age, what they call in Brazil. So they dance every week, 2-3 times a week, and they have a lot of energy, I guess. Yes, from my father principally.
Tell me a little bit about this orchestra in Brazil on the Rio do Norte. Give me the title properly, and then where is it? I'm curious. I spent some time in Brazil as a student.
Yeah, it's Orquestra Sinfônica do Rio Grande do Norte, or Symphony Orchestra of Rio Grande do Norte. Rio Grande do Norte is a state, which means a big river of the north. I was born actually in the big river of the south, and then I have another state that is the north river. So it's kind of interesting because it's on the tip of Brazil and is the closest to Africa in this whole Americas. It's like about 4 hours you are in Africa by airplane, something like that.
Is it Amazonian? That
No,
region?
in the other side, in the east side, and is beautiful beaches. It's absolutely gorgeous weather all year long. It's like Caribbean Ocean, beautiful water colors. I mean, you name it. And I always like that part of Brazil. It's beautiful. It's exotic for us that live on the south. In the south of Brazil, you have a lot of cold weather because we have the four seasons very well designed. But in the north is basically summer, and they call winter when it rains. That's about it. So I always like that idea of living in a place exotic like that with beautiful beaches. Um, so what happened is that I was invited. I was doing tours. The Southern Arizona Symphony went to China, and I took some Brazilian groups to China. And this orchestra they heard about, and they want to do because the orchestra was almost dying totally. They were in a very big crisis, and they thought, let's go to China. We'll be the first Brazilian orchestra to go to China. That could be good for us to resuscitate literally. And I said, well, I don't see any video of you guys playing. Yeah, I don't want to take any orchestra that I don't know. So, but I will be there in vacation with my parents. And if you guys are playing, can I come and see rehearsals? So I went there. I saw rehearsals. Said, well, they're playing Beethoven, Tchaikovsky's Fifth Symphony, and I said, it sounds okay, but I don't think I will take you playing any classical European music to China. I don't think they even will be interested. So why don't you plan on a local Brazilian music flavor to perform in China? Anyway, ended up that they couldn't go to China. They invited me to be a guest conductor for one performance, and happened that they were looking for a conductor. The orchestra voted unanimously in inviting me, and I said, well, how am I going to do if I'm living in Houston, in Tucson? How am I going to conduct? Well, we only do one concert a month. They are professional orchestra, but they only do one concert, classical. Sometimes they do then educational and popular concerts, but three concerts is the most they will do in a month, and they can be all staggered in the same time in 1 2 weeks. And I said, well, I could do that. So the government started helping with the tickets. I went down there. I literally resuscitate the orchestra. It's sounding, very good orchestra now. It's a professional orchestra. We're still in a big process of growth. And so it's been now it's been now 6 years. And we recorded a CD with a local composer there, Tonheka Dantas. We've done a lot of concerts, big concerts. And the most important is what is happening there. It's unique in the world. We have every concert now, 1,500 people, totally full the theater, in a place that classical music is not native to them. It's not natural. And a lot of this audience is youth. And the most important, they fight. Some people stay on the line from 8 in the morning to 12 to get a ticket to see the symphony orchestra. And they fight. They almost broke the box office the other day because there's never enough tickets for everyone. And even they are free because it's a government orchestra. They have to go to a process to get the tickets because it's insane. It's beautiful.
What are they drinking? What are they drinking in that part of the world? That's what I want to know. How big is the city? How big is the city, by the way? Excuse me once more.
It's about the size of Tucson. I will say maybe a little bit bigger, maybe over a million and a half. Tucson is about a million, a little bit more than that now. So maybe about the same size.
Perfect.
But if you look at the pictures and the skyline, you think it's way bigger than here because we have a lot of high buildings, our high risers.
That's why I asked, because as a student, spent a little bit of time in Brazil, but in later life I saw about some of these cities no one on the planet has ever heard of in Brazil, and you see the pictures, and they're on the coast, gorgeous skyscrapers, huge cities, big parks.
So and I enjoy going there between the desert here and the beach there. It's quite an interesting shift almost every month, right?
Nice. And how about this business of it? It sounds to me, correct me if I'm wrong, but you sort of your beginnings were in choral conducting, and then is there? It's almost a stupid question, really. I hope it doesn't put you off, but because I'm trying to get somewhere here with this idea of I made a little note to myself. Oh, he's a choral director, therefore the bar line will in fact disappear. I love it when the bar line disappears. How is that conducting an orchestra from a choral kind of perspective?
I have to change my technique totally, first of all, and I must agree that choral conductors are very different when they get in front of the orchestra, and a lot of musicians don't like that.
Yes.
That's one thing. But but the other part that I think is great, my technique is very different. I don't conduct choruses anymore unless I do, like next year we'll do Beethoven's Nine and we'll do Carmina Burana again and stuff like that. But I changed totally, so I don't think ever any orchestra thing will notice that I was ever a choral conductor, first of all.
And I
But
know exactly what you're speaking of. It's kind of why I
yeah,
asked the question. And
right.
you
So
instrumentalists have trouble with it.
yeah, the great thing though is that, and we used to think bad about that for sometimes, but all the biggest conductors that I study, and I study with disciples of Celibidache, for example, and any other conductor that I will study, they will say one very important thing about conducting an orchestra: you must sing to them. You must sing because I don't have an instrument. I study many instruments, but I'm conducting. I don't. Okay, give me your violin. Some conductors do that. Give me your violin, and I will show you. But that's not the point. I'm not going to get the violin, even if I was playing the violin from the Spala, from the concertmaster, and you give it to me, I will show you. That's kind of rude.
Yes.
So I don't have an instrument. The instrument is my orchestra. So therefore, when I sing, they get it right away what I want because singing is still our first and most natural instrument. And you sometimes you can say a lot of things, but you just sing the way you wanna hear, and they play. So in that sense, I think that part of my life as a singer and as a choral conductor has to do a lot with how I can communicate with the orchestra these days.
Exactly. And you know what I meant about phrasing. In other words, we just discussed it. Singing, vocalizing is a wonderful way of showing phrasing, and phrasing is so important. So you
Yeah,
have this mighty advantage, uh,
correct.
the best of both worlds. In other words, a nice.
There was an article a while ago. I think it was New York Times 2 years ago. Maybe they call a lot of American conductors technotroms, something like that, because they don't know how to sing anymore. They don't know how to, it's very beautiful here, but because this is all rehearsed perhaps in front of a mirror or something, and looks nice, but looks like a robot because you can see that there's no connection sometimes with the music. And it's very important that the gesture has to be a consequence of what is inside. Otherwise, what's the point?
Yeah, exactly. And you put it so well, and that is the very simple secret, I think, of conducting. And by the way, as we've discussed about musicians, they know right away when they've got a phony up in front of them. You just don't stand a chance. If
Yeah.
there is not something coming from your soul, and I've seen conductors who don't conduct well technically,
Less
but
than a minute, the orchestra
the
knows.
music is
Yeah.
divine, and so yeah, it's really one really, and it's a tremendous responsibility. I've spoken with other conductors, as you know, a very big responsibility to communicate your interpretation of this music before you. What's that? You okay? Have we lost you? We lost you a little bit.
Yes, there you go.
Don't panic. That was merely a low-flying satellite. It happens occasionally. And by the way, thank Zeus that you are back with us. So that was a brief one. I've suffered worse. Anyway, I was just simply speaking to the great responsibility of conductors, and it is a great responsibility. And I suppose the older we get, the more we realize the
Yes.
heft of the responsibility, and look back on what we did as younger people, and weep tears. Let's talk about the composers just a little bit. The two composers on this CD, Amanda Harburg, her viola concerto, also her string and viola arrangement of Elegy, and Max Walpert viola concerto, the number one, and it's entitled Giants. And I read somewhere, I have the quote someplace here, that Max wields the unsung hero of the orchestra to call up singing harps, dancing storm clouds, and a fiendishly ticking clock inexorably counting down to the end of the world. End quote. Now, talk about imagery. That concerto, Max Walpert's concerto, the viola concerto, is just alive with energy in three wonderful and amazing movements. But when and how did you meet both Amanda and Max?
I only met them in person when they were here for the recordings. So basically, the first contact was really Brett Doidner who knew them because these concerts were composed for him. And so he introduced me to them by email, and I spoke a little bit about the music and how, we're going to do this. And we made all the efforts to have them here as we recorded, so they were here.
Nice.
And I must say they're both wonderful to work with, very young, composers. Max Volper, I think, was 22 or 23 at that moment then. And yeah, he was born in 1993. So in 2016 that we recorded, he was only 23 years old.
And when I saw that birth date, I thought, now what was I doing in 1993? Oh, I was getting older.
Yes.
Excuse me.
I think it's very magical, the Volper concert. Both of them I see as very refreshing, and the music is absolutely something that takes you somewhere. And when people listen to it, they say first, oh, this is contemporary music, and then they listen. It's quite inspiring. I have the opportunity to play the CD for people that don't even like classical music on the car or something. Say, listen to this. What do you think? They don't know it's a CD from my orchestra or anything. And say, oh, what a beautiful music. What is it? And, in some moments you might think that sounds like a movie or something from a movie. But, it's very I would say, very touching to me because it's music that I only decide to record because I said, I like this. I don't want to record something too crazy. And I like contemporary music, and I think these are very good additions to the repertoire of viola. In fact, you're talking about Max Volper. It's a very hard concert to play for the orchestra because as you can see, all those rhythms and changing, and sometimes like a raga or something, it's not easy to achieve. And my orchestra had to work hard, and they did a phenomenal job. By the time we had to record, I was so impressed because I actually did the premiere of these two pieces I did in Brazil.
Yes, thank you for reminding me. I remember reading that.
Amanda Harburg was with my orchestra in Brazil. It went pretty well. But the Volpert I did at the Gramado Festival, and I put two orchestras together, and there's so many problems at the rehearsal. Performance was okay, but it was not an easy task because it's a very hard, rhythmically hard piece to put together.
Yeah, and there are some tricky meter situations that are wonderful. Very imaginative, very. I keep think there's some beautiful imagery sequences is the best way I can put it. Adventures, and then another tableau, and so on. In both concerti, they both are very imaginative. The orchestration is amazing. The choice of instruments and colors is quite wonderful. And then, as we have agreed, they're both kids. It's
a lot of colors. I felt sometimes that we're playing a little bit of French music with all those colors. It's really well written, really well orchestrated.
And very lyrical. Beautiful.
Yes.
Very accessible to the public.
Very lyrical, so it doesn't go away that actually you can finish them and you can sing some of the melodies.
By the way, without compromising in any way. For example, the viola part, there's some very, very high tessitura that's quite exciting and wonderful.
Yes.
I don't think I've ever heard that usage of just a very high pitch on the viola or the sweep up to it. I mean, just some very imaginative writing. And Brett's instrument, what a sound. What a gorgeous, rich, glorious viola sound. Well, I guess we better start winding it down. I want to know about the future of Southern Arizona Symphony. What's the board up to? What are you sitting down and scheming?
I think as the orchestra, in the sense of being a mixed community professionals / students, we have done so much. We have done 2 tours to China. We have done a tour to Brazil, and we have done many tours to Mexico. In fact, in that festival, one of the orchestras that participate in Mexico is the Southern Arizona, or at least many members of the orchestra here. So now, this next season, 2019-2020, we are commemorating our 40th anniversary. So we have big works coming. I'm starting the season with Symphonie Fantastique. You don't see an orchestra like that kind doing a piece like that. It's a hard piece. Uh, and we're opening because it's year of 200 years of Berlioz. I mean, 150 anniversary of death of Berlioz, and then next year I mean, we're doing Carmina Burana in many places. We're partnering with schools and all kind of groups in town, and then we're doing a all Beethoven sort of concerto, all Tchaikovsky with a painter, famous guy, painting. Meanwhile, we play. So it's going to be nice. And we end the season with Beethoven's ninth because next year is Beethoven's anniversary. So we're doing big things this year. And if it works, I'm working right now with one of my managers, Andrew Strange from England. We are trying to put together a tour to Europe at the end of 1920 season. So maybe next year by July, if we can, we will do a tour to end this wonderful period with, I mean, 40 anniversary and my 12th year with the orchestra as well. So,
Well, that's not much. And I find whomever is sitting around cooking up the ideas very imaginative. As you know, Carmina Burana sells tickets
yes,
big
yes,
time.
we done 10 years ago when we did our 30th anniversary, and it was my second year. So now it's my 11th, and I can tell you that we did not expect that. We did, I think, 3 or 4 performances, and they were totally full. We have to put extra chairs. Yeah, Carmina Burana is Carmina Burana. So.
Very, very popular work. Also, of course, Beethoven 9, and I'll correspond with you a little later after this interview because I have just reviewed Benjamin Zander's new recording with the Philharmonic Orchestra of Beethoven 9 with all of the correct metronome markings,
Oh,
proven,
wow. Would
proven.
love to see.
In other words, it's definitive. The proofs are now there that Beethoven
Really?
was not out of his mind. So those very, very fast tempos, that's exactly what he wanted. Anyway, long story, but we'll chat later. What a thrill. Linus Lerner, music director of the Southern Arizona Symphony in Tucson. Terrific CD on Naxos, pretty good. American classics, Naxos. Give me a break. Two wonderful American viola concertos, Amanda Harburg's viola concerto and her elegy for viola and strings. That's beautiful. And Max Walpert's viola concerto number one, Giants, with Brett Deubner as violist. Again, Southern Arizona Symphony Orchestra, Linus Lerner conducting. All goes up on performingartsreview.net. Linus, thank you very, very much. We've been off again, on again, as you've been flitting around the planet on your many projects, but I'm so glad that we've finally gotten together and gotten this interview in. Thanks for giving me a part of your evening.
You. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Appreciate it.